Genk, from May 2015 to June 2019. The Living Lab de Andere Markt, DAM, had a physical space in the neighborhood of Winterslag, where it challenged the conventional research paradigms that dichotomize the knowing subject from the object of knowledge. Here, all human and non-human agents became knowing subjects who defined, in conversation, the objects of research. As Orlando Falsborda said, the terms of reference and the categories operating within sociological paradigms imported from the Europe and US were unsatisfactory for him to study the Colombian reality. Wouldn't that be the case for any other reality? Genk, July 19th of 2015. Suleiman is an organic farmer who 5 years ago decided to start a project to grow herbs and vegetables in a small plot of land just outside the city. He is a living example of ways in which we can diffuse the historical break between humans and nature by growing food in an urban setting. Suleiman can be seen as an hombre icotea, a turtle man, an anthropomorphic representation used by Falsborda to illustrate not only cultural forms of resistance, but also ecological relations. Genk, May 10th of 2016. Dosse comes from the Ivory Coast and recently migrated to Belgium and settled in Genk. He stressed the importance of dancing in his life, to the point to say, "I cannot live without dancing." He reminds us that reason is not enough for engaging with a territory. We also have to feel it, or better, you have to engage in sentipensante, sensible and thoughtful practices, combining reason and love, body and heart, to undo oneself from the deformations that affect harmony and the possibility of speaking the truth. Genk, May 10th of 2016. Brahim is a youth worker engaged with several bottom-up initiatives. By having a listening ear, he is committing to research, together with the youth of Genk, in building alternative futures with and for them. Probably unknowingly, Brahim is a disciple of Pablo and his popular education agenda, insofar as he engages, through direct involvement with them, in a sensible practice of search and research for other ways of world-making for youngsters. Belgium, since May 2014. The cargo bike has been active with us, laying the path while walking in an alternative and experimental way of conducting and documenting research. Instead of a predefined protocol, it has helped us to include different participants in the definition of the process, as well as it has helped all actors to critically position themselves in the context. In helping us move through the territory and mapping the skills of its actors, it has become our privileged tool for systematizing experiences. Genk, July 19th of 2015. Catherine is a Belgian design researcher involved in several projects and initiatives in the city. She defined her skill as kuches and kalfjes, cows and lambs, as a way of saying that she can easily do small talk with anyone about almost any topic. That way of approaching a context, away from elitist academic milieus, can be seen as an acknowledgement of other epistemic locations, ones in which the voice of a common citizen is given as much value as the most recognized PhD. Leuven, November 2017. The project Working Transitions engaged in a site-specific research for collectively inquiring the transition of the Wartkom neighborhood in Leuven. Instead of applying a universal approach or method for research or implementing predefined solutions, local actors were invited to think and act on site, to understand the transition and to propose a speculative scenario for action. This initiative, with its different nodes and connections, embodies the dictum "I am where I think and act." Genk, since 2014. The town Van Betty is a community garden and orchard that has been managed by the community of Winterslag for more than 5 years. The spirit of the place has been rooted in adapting the space with the resources present in the environment, including leftover material. This sort of vernacular design resembles the spirit of designs of the Souths, wherein material constructions made by non-designers are also considered legitimate. The existence of the garden also represents a side of resistance to the hegemonic models of and city making, therefore contributing to decolonizing design, at the same time as it has privileged the participation of women in its spaces and activities. The involvement of the researchers of DAM in the activities of the garden demonstrates an autonomous design process, insofar as they embedded themselves in the everyday life of the community where they worked. Genk, 2015. 2016. FungiLab was an initiative that sought to test the possibility of growing organic mushrooms in all city buildings, using only local resources and leftovers. By embracing the unpredictability of the process of growing mushrooms, as well as the interdependence of the different resources and conditions, this case shows the impossibility of framing any process within an idea of total design, instead acknowledging that any design process requires a radical interdependence and its results can go in different directions of an ecology of designs. Henk, June 2015. Pablo is a Colombian designer and educator who co-founded DAM as part of his PhD trajectory on interventionist practices. Moreover, during his 7-year trajectory in Europe, he always asked himself how his position as a Latin American and Colombian influenced the ways in which he intervened and operated in diverse European contexts. Henk, June 2015. Liesbeth is a Belgian researcher and practitioner with extensive experience in participatory design processes and co-founder of DAM in order to engage in a long-term process with a city with which she had worked in numerous short-term projects. The Internet, since 2018. I am the Relational Network Tool, RNT, a digital platform created to give form to closely knit connections that have been created and nurtured for several years by diverse researchers and designers working in the city. I map 5 different categories of nodes: actors, spaces, tools, events, and initiatives, and the relations between them. My development had several goals. On one hand, visualizing the actors and their capabilities situated and related to specific sites in the city as a documentation that was publicly accessible. On the other hand, I've aimed to foster autonomous processes by giving back-office access to different actors, groups, and community leaders through which they can map their own interventions and the connections that relate to them. From an outward perspective, I've helped to represent Henk to the rest of the world, based on the strength of its relations and its potential for building new work environments and relations in the city, rather than for its problems. As a tool for representation, I also encourage and inspire other places to appropriate such pluriversal design practices. It is also important to note that I am in continuous change on the level of positioning, structures, content, or actors that maintain me, and based on the new interventions that take place. In that sense, I do not represent a modernist total design, but aspire to be a pluriversal representation of an ecology of designs.